Well, good morning all and welcome. As you know, David is not with us for the next 2 months as he's probably out on the high seas enjoying himself. So of course we wish him all wind in his sails, if that's a nautical expression. What do I know? So here's what's happened. He sent in written critiques on all the photographs that had been submitted on, I don't know, around the 9th of July. I don't have critiques for any that were sent in subsequently. So what I'll do is read out his critique on the slides where appropriate. But here's something different. I want us to score all of the photographs out of 100 on the sheets that I've given you, and at the end we'll top them up and the winner wins the much coveted chocolates. Is that fair? Okay, and there will be a couple of other videos at the end, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so let's crack on with the presentation and enjoy our fabulous landscape photographs. Image number 1. I really like the selection of shutter speed to freeze the action of the seagull and keeping its shadow on the beach by avoiding too much cropping. However, a crop off the right-hand side and the area below the shadow would improve this shot. Nonetheless, an interesting glimpse of a trip out. Not sure it's a landscape, though. Image number 2. Beautifully framed by the trees on the right and well cropped into a square format. One of my favourites. Horizon is level and it's on the third. Well done. Would make a good wall display print. Image number 5. Another well-framed, nearly square image with the magic number 3 of boats and negative vignette. I particularly like the reflection in the water which the photographer has deliberately chosen to keep in. A pleasant image. Image number 7. A true landscape with foreground, midground and background. The water on the left acting as a point of initial interest and attempting to both bookend the image on the left and lead us towards the crane. Lots of potential there, well seen. Image number 12. Well framed. A frame within a frame, great. A filter may have helped to bring more definition into the sky. Good shot, well seen, well framed. Image number 14. Beautiful pastoral scene, well exposed and focused, leading in from the left and the point of interest on the third. I particularly like the reflection in the water. Please do it again when the sky is more interesting. Image number 16. Now that's an interesting sky. Full marks for arranging that. Foreground, midground and background are all interesting and well placed in the frame. Just a little worried by the half a boat on the left camera. A little more to the left would have avoided it sinking. Image number 20. Beautifully framed by the foliage, these boats hold my interest. All three grounds are present, making this an interesting shot, although the boats seem to be facing out of the frame. Please go back when the tide is flooding and the boats face into the frame. Image number 22. Well seen, with two of the grounds present. Perhaps a crop off the bottom to allow the line of the grass to come up from the bottom left-hand corner would improve this. It's sharp, well focused, and a good starting point with people on the third. Image number 27. A well-framed shot with an interesting sky, horizon on the third, and a subject of interest well placed in the frame. Lovely image. Maybe a crop off the top might work. Try it and see. Image 29. A beautiful scene, restful on the eyes and a break from motoring, I guess. The hazy distant hills give me a good impression of depth, and the trees with strong shadows in the midground draw my attention. Clearly taken at high sun time, so go back and retake it at dawn or sunset so that the shadows are drawn out. A good spot to shoot from. Pleasant scene. Maybe a crop off the bottom would improve it further. Image 32. Vignetted. Good try and well chosen place to shoot from. Unfortunately, the mast in the middle divides the image into two, and the boat belonging to that mast seems to have sunk. A good try at framing with foliage. This is Mo. I can add a footnote to that shot, which has been resubmitted with the excess cropping at the bottom corrected. Image 33. Good sky, interesting grounds and well-seen shot. I particularly like the rust and decay in the foreground, although my eye is confused by the grasses in front. Lovely image, well exposed and focused on the closest component. I like this a lot. Image 37. Durdle door with vignette. Well placed in the frame, a level horizon and interesting geology detail clearly shown. Looking at the shadows tells me the time of day it was taken, which could have been better when the sun was nearer setting and the shadows were drawn out considerably. A few fluffy clouds in the sky would have been an improvement, but we are not in charge of the weather.
Ice creams, mate. Strawberry sauce for you.
Oh, as requested. Love that. Love that.
Oh. So, other than the ice creams, why are we here today?
Well, the ice creams are the main reason, obviously, as a given. But I thought it'd be cool to have a little bit of a challenge where we, well, let me explain that. So we've got a challenge each. First challenge is that one of us only has 50 shots in the whole day. We can walk wherever we want. We can walk around the town. We can go on the pier.
So roughly the equivalent to 2 rolls of film.
Exactly, yeah. And then the other challenge is that the other person will have as many shots as they want, so they can take 1,000 shots if they want, but they are confined to 50 steps. How does that sound to you?
Yeah. They're both going to be a bit of a challenge, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'll go for the 50 yards.
I thought you'd go for the other one.
Oh, and I'll let you take the 50 shots.
Okay.
Yeah?
50 steps, not 50 yards. So you've only got 50 individual steps.
See, I'm already trying to make it larger, aren't I?
Yeah. And should we say 2 hours? 2 hour limit?
2 hours. What, meet back here?
Yeah.
And see how we get it on, yeah?
So may the best man win.
Yep. Good luck. See you later, man.
Okay. Right, well, Matt has headed off towards the pier, and I think that's probably a good move. That's what I would do as well, because that seems to be sort of where all the action is. This end of the sort of the beach is a little bit quieter, but I've hung around here because this is a really nice little stretch of kind of pavement right next to the beach, and some quite interesting characters kind of walking along, sort of like loads of people with dogs and like older people and stuff. So so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hang out for someone to come along. I'm going to use a really wide angle lens. This is a 17 to 40. I'm going to use it at 17, and I've got this nice blue sky and a white wall, and I'm just going to shoot like a side-on shot of them walking past. So quite a minimal image. And I just need to wait for the right person, because I'm really tight on shots, so I need to make sure I don't waste any.
Now, deciding which spot to begin in has really been a challenge, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but it's all spread out down the promenade. It all goes on for miles, and that's going to be the advantage that Tim's going to have, is that he's going to be able to walk around and find those great subjects. And, you know, okay, he's limited in how many shots he can take, but as long as he nails those images, you know, he's not going to have a problem. I've really been restricted, and 50 yards is not as far as you think. I've just been counting, and I think it's roughly just up the stairs by the pier there. Now, I've chose this spot because there's a few interesting things going on around here. We've got the deck chairs behind me here, the deck chair hire. Maybe I can take some classic seascape images here. There's some donkeys further back. Maybe I can take a couple of portraits of them. And there's a few things going on and a few people milling around. So, you know, hopefully there'll be some images there. But this, and deciding on a spot, has really been a challenge. So, yeah, currently I feel like Tim chose the better option. All right, well, I'm going to start taking some shots, so wish me luck. Now, as soon as I press my shutter, my 50 steps are going to start. So I'm just going to take a bit of time here to frame up and really get my first image in place before I press that shutter down. Okay, well, that's my first shot. I guess this is the start of my 50 steps.
Right, well, I've just been to the sweet shop on the pier, and I've bought myself a 50p stick of rock for a little photo idea that I've got. So the idea is that the rock has Great Yarmouth written in the middle, so I've kind of snapped it off and eaten the other half. And I'm going to hold it out at arm's length, and I'm going to focus on the Great Yarmouth, and I'm going to use a 24 to 70 lens with an f2.8 maximum aperture, and I'm going to shoot at f2.8. That's going to give me a really shallow depth of field, so that the Great Yarmouth is in focus, but the background, the sun and the sea and the sand in the background, which is the way I'm facing, will be all out of focus. So that's going to help draw attention to the end of that rock. So let's give this a go. So f2.8. Okay, nice fast shutter speed. Let's have a go. I'm just going to zoom in a bit here. Go to about 50 mil. Really like that. That works.
Okay, so on this challenge, as far as I'm concerned, everything is a potential subject. You know, anything that might work, I'm going to give it a bash. And you might see behind me there's 3 benches, and different people are coming along and sitting on them and carrying on with their day and having some fun. So what I think I might do is try and get some portraits of them. Now, I'm going to have to go quite wide because I'm kind of stuck with this lens here. I haven't got anything that's really going to zoom in. But I think, yeah, maybe I'll try and build up a bit of a series of portrait images, and that's what I'll do.
Well, I felt like I was doing really, really well with this challenge. Started to get a few really good shots, and I was getting into kind of like, you know, not just getting my camera out and shooting loads of stuff, so actually thinking through shots before I pressed the shutter. And then it all kind of suddenly went wrong. I saw this dog on the beach, and he was like goofing around in the water, and he was running along, and I got my long lens out, and then like I started shooting it, and I was just like, and I'd used up like 20 shots, and they're all out of focus. They're all blurred. I totally blew it. So I've only got a few shots left in the tank now. What I'm going to do is right here on the, so there's a little wooden walkway that sort of goes down the beach to the sea, and it's quite nice. But earlier on it was like packed full of people, so it wasn't really a goer. But now it's empty. It's sort of the end of the day. There's no one here, so I'm going to head off down there now.
35, 36, 37. Oh, moving subjects. Look, you got to keep your eyes open here.
Okay, So this is about the right position, I think. And if I get my camera really, really low, I can get sort of the edges of the walkway just kind of coming out of the bottom 2 corners of the frame. If I zoom fully out, which looks pretty nice. So there's those nice leading lines that just kind of draw the eye into the shot. And I'm also going to use, for this shot, a circular polarizer. This one's a nice thin coking one, and just screws onto the end of the lens, and then you turn the end piece of glass, and it's going to give me nice deep blue skies, but not affect the clouds. So what I need to do is kind of just twist the end piece until I feel that the sky is about right, which is about there, and then I'm using the widest aperture I've got, which is f4, and I'm just going to focus on a really close bit of the closest I can focus there, a bit of stone and sand there, okay, and then recommit, and then I'm going to take the shot. And that is actually pretty nice. Really pleased with that.
Okay, so you can't always wait for a shot. Sometimes you've got to go back to that classic seaside fallback option and just build a stone tower. That's exactly what I've done here. I'm going to base a shot all around composition, maybe put the stones on one of the rule of third lines, and maybe go quite wide still, and still show that I'm here at the beach, I'm at the seaside, but use a wide aperture so that I can really focus attention onto my stone tower. And I think that's going to be my next shot.
Matty boy.
Hey man, how'd you get on?
Going good.
Yeah, not bad, bud.
Did you forget the sun cream or something? Looking a bit pink.
It's been a sunny day.
Yeah.
It has been a sunny day.
My arms have gone a bit as well.
So, 50 shots. Any worth keeping?
I think so. I mean, it was a difficult exercise, no doubt about it. You know,
Yeah.
so it was really hard going. But feeling a bit tired now. I've walked about 5 miles, I reckon, whereas
Yeah.
you've only walked about 30 metres, haven't you, or something like that?
Probably, well, yeah, probably something like that. Not very far at all.
Yeah. So, how did you find it?
Yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, I tried to pick a spot that I thought there was going to be some great potential images, and I got a couple of shots. I kind of felt like I exhausted my my potential subjects after a while. But then, you know, with people walking into the shots and stuff like that, you know, it
The
was
environment
okay.
does change,
It does.
doesn't it?
It does
Yeah.
change, and I think, you know, maybe that's what it did for me. You know, I started to think about things a little bit more and find those angles and really work with the subjects, as opposed to just going for that instant shot every time, that first angle that you see.
And it's amazing what you can find, isn't it? Like some little things that you perhaps wouldn't spot normally when you actually really
definitely.
look for them. You know, pictures
Definitely.
are there. Good.
If you look hard enough and, you know, really work with it, then there are shots everywhere.
Yeah.
And, you know,
But hats off to you for actually, you know, sticking to the rules. Good,
well,
good show.
you know, I'll be checking your file numbers as well. You know,
Oh yeah.
hopefully
yeah,
you were sticking
I
to the rules as
I
well.
did, yeah. I
and,
stuck to 50. Although I saw this dog on the beach and like
Yeah.
I just like got carried away and I really let myself down. I shot like 20 shots of it, like really, just wasted 20 shots.
Let's
And
hope there was one good one in
No,
there
they weren't.
then.
They're all blurred. Anyway, if you feel you've been rushing through locations and not really spending time, like really crafting your images, then maybe it's time to sort of change the way that you shoot. Why not try one of these 2 challenges to really help hone your photographic ability? From Great Yarmouth, see you next time.
Right, should we get the okay?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'll win you a teddy.
Brilliant. Okay. I'll get my bag.
One of the great things about photography is that it gets you out and about shooting the subjects you love, whether that's portraits, landscapes, or natural subjects in a lovely location like this. But just like your body and going to the gym, you need to keep your photographic eye in shape. So you need to get out shooting as much as possible. But sometimes you can get stuck in a rut and not get out shooting for weeks, sometimes months.
So we've come down to the woods today.
I bet we're in for a surprise, aren't we?
You are in for a big surprise, James, because we're not going to be taking images of just anything. Today we've got 5 words that all of our shots are going to be based on. And those words are underneath, time, contrast, peace and cold.
This isn't going to be easy. I think this is going to be a real challenge, but I think the advantage of having these words is that rather than wandering around aimlessly, we've got some focus, and we could take these words to any location, doesn't matter what's there, we would have a focus. So, as I said, it's going to be tough, so should we get a move on and
crack on and get some shots?
Okay, so I'm on my first word and it's underneath, and I've been scouring the forest floor to look under the undergrowth. That's the way I've interpreted the word underneath. Now the obvious shot would have been to lay on the ground or something with a really nice wide angle lens and look up into the sky, but I just wanted to push myself a little bit harder. So I found some fungi here in amongst the dead leaves. There's a lot of grass in the shot like this that I've got to pull out. You've got to do gardening for macro photography, even if you're in a natural location, because the slightest thing out of place can really mess up the shot. And there I can see there's a little stem. I've got a twig there. You've got to be so careful because you can really disrupt everything that's going on. Okay, so let's take a quick test shot. And I've just got the self-timer set up because I haven't got a cable release, but that's absolutely perfect. Okay, so looking a bit dark on the stem, so I haven't got a reflector. I've got a piece of paper, my list of words, and it's amazing how the simple items in your camera bag can be so useful, even if they're not actually photographic. So there I'm getting a little bit more light bouncing on the stem, and let's take one more shot. There we go, 1 down, 4 more to go.
Okay, the first word that I thought I would try and take an image for is contrast. And as I've been walking along this path, I spotted these blackberries, and the difference between the ripening red berries and the blackberries, you know, the colour's going to look really good in an image. So I thought I'd take a few shots of these. Okay. Well, these are looking quite good, but the only problem is I'm using a wide aperture, which gives me a nice blurry background. However, I've still got quite a lot of dead stuff that's quite distracting in the image, a lot of kind of browns and stuff, which are almost out of focus, but not quite. So I've got an idea, and it might seem a little bit crazy, but we're going to see if it works. I'm just going to steam up just one side of my lens, and that's going to make that part of my image seem really out of focus. So now not only have I got a contrast between colour, but I've also got a contrast between the areas that are in focus and the blur in the background and to the side. So this is going to be an image that is absolutely filled full of contrast.
Well, it wasn't my intention to go for time next, but I saw this lovely tree bark with this green moss or lichen. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it makes it really kind of pop out colour-wise. So it's not just a flat, brown, boring bark. There's actually a real nice contrast in there. So that's my time shot. No special techniques, just a case of literally framing up and trying to get these lines occupying the frame quite nicely, and shot done. So time to move on.
There's a lot of this moss in the forest, and I really love the colour in the fronds. You know, the greens are looking great. And actually, with the light coming through the trees and a little bit of dew in them, it's got a bit of a sparkle as well, a bit of backlighting. It's looking really nice. Now, there's also a lot of dead leaves around, and I thought what I'll do, I'll just move one of these leaves over to rest on the bed of moss. And for me now, this is a real peaceful kind of scene. You know, the leaf has gone through its life cycle, it's fallen to the ground, it's slowly starting to rot away, but there it is, just resting on this bed of green. So I've got down low, and I'm getting some quite nice images here. So I'm just going to wait for that perfect moment of light, perfect bit of backlighting, and take a few more shots.
Well, walking around, I found a feather on the floor, and I've just been looking for a nice dark surface that I can place it on, just to get a bit of contrast, to really make the feather stand out. And the word I'm working to right now is peace. And you may be wondering what the significance of that feather is. Well, it's a pigeon feather. Pigeons are closely related to the dove, symbol of peace. Works for me, so I'm going to roll with it. And this tree stump here, it's got some really nice texture. So I'm just going to take a few different shots and just use a diagonal composition just to make the shot a little bit more dynamic.
Now, for time, I really wanted to get a shot of a spider spinning a web. You know, they've always kind of had that association with time for me. Now, I found this little guy, he's already built his web, but he's sat there, he's waiting for the fly to hit his web, and he'll be out of there like a greyhound out of a trap. So for me, it's still about time. He's still sat there waiting for that perfect moment. I've switched to a Canon now with a macro lens, and that's allowed me to get in nice and close, manually focus, and get the detail that's in the spider. So yeah, my shot's going to be a spider on a web.
Okay, so this time I'm looking at contrast, and there are loads and loads of different options in a forest. I'm not going to list them all. You might be able to think of some of them already. But the one I'm going to go for isn't totally obvious. It's more technique-led, but the technique itself actually creates a really nice amount of contrast, and that's why I'm going for it. And it's simply vertical panning. So with that, I'm just focusing in the scene, and then start a pan, and then release the shutter, and hopefully I get some really nice smooth movement. And as long as you've got loads of really nice straight evergreen trees kind of going off into the distance, you get loads of nice contrast where the sun's coming through the foliage, and then the trees stand there nice and statuesque and just kind of hold the image and make it quite interesting. And you just always get really nice shots. It's a matter of trial and error, so you have to take quite a few. Don't be surprised if you're shooting 20 or 30 shots at a time just to get that one that's perfect. So I'll just show you how I do it. I'm just literally focusing straight ahead, start the pan, and then release the shutter. So I'm quite lucky with this camera because as soon as I've taken an image with the EVF switched on, the image actually shows up inside the viewfinder, so I immediately know, without even taking the camera away from my eye, if I've got the shot or not. So I'm going to try a few more, and that's my contrast shot.
Now, for my underneath image, I'm going to be using a fisheye lens. And if you come to a well-shot location like this, or a location where you're trying to squeeze a few extra images out of, then the fisheye lens can be the perfect tool. Okay, it's a bit of specialist kit, but the crazy distortion that it's going to give me in my images is going to create some really unique results. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay backwards, I'm going to get down nice and low, and I'm going to get under this bit of fern here, and that's going to give me a bit of depth in my image. And as opposed to my trees going straight up like they would on a normal lens, instead I'm going to get this crazy distortion pulling the trees into the centre of my image. Okay, I think we've got some pretty cool images there. I'm just going to go find James in a minute, but I think first I'll take a few more shots. All right, James, hello, mate. How did you get on?
Yeah, not bad. It was good. Hard working with the words, but it focused me. And I'd say I spent 50% of the time kind of thinking about the words, and then the other 50% was what technique can I use with that subject and that idea.
It was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, but healthy, I think. It helped.
Definitely. Something a bit different.
So let's have a look, see what you've got.
I'll show you a few shots. Okay, so this is my contrast image here. What do you think to it?
Yeah, it's good. It's different, not what I was really expecting. How did you get that fuzzy bit on the edge?
I thought you might ask about that. That was a bit of breathing on the lens.
Nice, nice. Bit hit or miss, but you've nailed it.
Yeah, it kind of worked, didn't it? And let's have a look at your one then. What's your contrast shot?
So that's this one here, the blurry trees.
I like it. A bit of vertical pan in there.
Yeah, you know, it's an old chestnut, but... So what am I looking at here?
So you've got the leaf there, sat on the moss, and it's kind of there, it's resting, it's all like a really serene scene for me. I mean, that's a really peaceful shot.
I really don't know what to say.
No,
no, it's really good. I really like it because you've kind of thought outside the box, and it's not immediately obvious, but I don't think it always has to be. So yeah, my piece one, I was kind of linking things a bit tenuously, going for the kind of dove symbol. Pigeon,
yeah.
feather, you know.
Yeah, you're having a go at me about being contrived.
Well,
look at you.
Know. Used a bit of differential focus there to let it blur out, and so yeah, look at this one here. Got a nice, bright, wide shot of the fern and loads of trees in the background. I'm guessing that's got to be underneath.
Definitely, you got it in one.
I really like this. I think this is my favourite shot of yours, to be honest. This is it's a classic, but at the same time, it's different, and I think that's what makes it work so well.
Yeah, I think getting underneath that fern as well, so there's a bit more depth in the image, really worked. And your one is this the toadstools, the mushrooms, or whatever they are here?
That's it. Yeah, they were tiny. They were literally a couple of centimetres tall, right on the forest floor.
The light's really nice. Did you do anything special for that?
I used a white piece of paper as a reflector and just natural light. It just really, really simple. Nice.
So this is my time one here. This spider.
Is it about the time it takes the spider to make a web? Or
well, that was my initial aim, but he was kind of he was quite sat there, quite content. But you know, as soon as a fly hits that web, you know, it's all going to change. So it's you know, it's about time. It's about that split second.
Well, I've gone for tree bark, and I think it's moss on there. The really nice bright green just jumping out of the textured background, and that kind of caught me. It takes time for that to grow, and I guess it's all about growth for me. Well, that was a really good day. Having the words really helped focus our attention, made us think creatively and in a different way to how we would normally.
Yeah, so I think, you know, grab your cameras, pick a few words, pick a location, and let your imagination run wild as well.
Right, shall we get off?
Let's go.
So do you think anyone will notice that we didn't do cold?
Nah.
Why did you choose cold for a forest?
I thought hot would be harder.
Yeah, true.